2018, Fujifilm released a camera that took the photography world by storm. This camera was fast, responsive, and weather-sealed. It had excellent autofocus performance, maintained its image quality at high ISO settings, and was supported by a robust lineup of high-quality lenses. This camera addressed the issues with earlier models and finally allowed professional photographers to begin switching to Fujifilm. That camera was the Fujifilm X-T3.
Hey guys, my name's Destin, and I'm one of the photographers who made that jump. As soon as the X-T3 was announced, I pre-ordered one and I listed my Nikon D810 and the rest of my Nikon full-frame kit for sale. Since that time, it's been about 5 years, I've used the Fuji X-T3 to photograph most genres of photography, from weddings to landscapes, portraits, astrophotography, wildlife and pets. You name it, I've done a little bit of everything with it. Primarily though, landscapes and portraits have been the most common uses for it. I've taken over 50,000 photos with the X-T3, and ever since, the second or third firmware update, it's been rock solid reliable for me. Early on, there were a few issues where, it was a little buggy with the initial firmware and they worked it out, but like Fuji always does, they released patches and updates and it fixed all those problems, and ever since then, it's been perfectly reliable with absolutely no issues. I've had this camera out in pretty much every weather condition you could imagine, from rain, sleet, snow, high winds up in the mountains. I've never had any issues with it. It's been very, very reliable the entire time I've owned it. In many ways, the X-T3 represents the best generation of the XT series cameras. The newer X-T4 and X-T5, a lot of people say the quality of them has gone downhill a little. I've never actually handled an X-T4, but I got the chance to use an X-T5 recently, and I've got to be honest, I agree with people. The body felt a little more plasticky. The switches and dials up top felt a little more, loose, not quite as robust as they are on the X-T3. And so I really do think the X-T3 was kind of the pinnacle in quality before it kind of started to slide down and get a little more plasticky and cheap. I know it's probably not a popular opinion among everybody, but that's how I feel. Those are my thoughts and what I've observed. I think the X-T3 was the most durable and solid feeling member of the X-T3 family. And mine has certainly, I've dropped it. It's flopped around on a camera strap and ridden in my glove box and been all over the place, and it's held up great. There's a few little nicks and marks on my body from use, but I would hope so after the use I've put it through, right? There's no big dents or dings or scratches. It all functions like the day I bought it, actually better because of the firmware updates, and so it's been great. This is a professional camera body through and through. It has weather sealing, dual card slots, and really, really good image quality, even at high ISO settings, for low light. In fact, the high ISO of this camera continues to rival Fuji's newest cameras because the X-T4 used the same sensor with just a newer processor, so it really didn't make any big strides. And the X-T5 and the X-H2, when they came out, prioritized high resolution over increasing the high ISO performance. And so I also have an X-H2, and I find that the high ISO performance of the X-H2 is pretty comparable to the X-T3. So really jumping into a newer camera with Fuji isn't going to get you higher ISO quality. It's just going to get you more megapixels, more features, but the image quality really hasn't improved in several generations now unless you need more resolution. So on that note, the X-T3 uses a 26 megapixel sensor, and so it has plenty of resolution unless you're printing, legitimate billboard sized photos, and then you may need to go with something like an X-H2 or maybe even to a medium format camera. Those use cases are few and far between, right? The nice thing about 26 megapixels is kind of a sweet spot. You get enough resolution to crop in if you need to, but you also have smaller file sizes, right? The file sizes on my 40 megapixel X-H2 are pretty big. They take up a lot more storage. They're a little hard to work with. You need a little better computer. There's a lot of downsides that come with going to a higher resolution that a lot of people don't talk about. So really, unless you're pixel peeping or again printing very, very large images, you're not going to utilize the extra resolution of the newer cameras anyway. 26 megapixels is plenty. I promise your clients are certainly not going to notice unless you're shooting, high-end commercial stuff or fashion. And even then, for most cases, 26 megapixels is completely fine. To me, anyway, the X-T3 is the perfect combination of high image quality, lightweight, and solid construction. And so I think for a lot of people, this is the right camera. Now, of course, like everything, there is some bad with the good, right? Nothing is perfect. There are some issues and some ways in which the newer cameras are better than the X-T3. The biggest downside when you choose an X-T3 over a newer camera is that it was the last of the XT lineup to use the older NPW126 series batteries. They have a notoriously short life on a single charge, whereas most newer cameras from Fuji, including the X-T4 and X-T5, the XH2 and XH2S, are using the NPW235 battery, which was a massive, massive improvement. There's no taking that away, right? That battery has a lot more life, it does a lot better. But that being said, if you don't shoot a lot of video and you're more of a stills shooter, you're really not going to notice this to be too much of an issue. Again, I photographed full-day weddings with this camera right here, exactly, the X-T3. And even with the smaller battery that, you know, is listed as the big con, I've really only had to go through 3 or 4 batteries in a full wedding day per X-T3 body. And so I don't view this as the end of the world, right? I think it's okay, you carry a few extra batteries, you get used to it. But it definitely, if you're coming from a DSLR, you're going to notice a big difference. And if you're used to, you know, the newer Fuji bodies or stuff from Nikon, Sony, full frame, you're definitely going to notice that it's a shorter battery life, but it's nothing you can't work around, right? I've used it professionally and it does great. The final con to the X-T3 or downside is that I found the face eye detection to be less reliable than I would like. If your subject is holding very still, it'll work well, but if your subjects are moving even slightly, your hit rate's generally going to drop to below 50%, and it's going to be a crapshoot on whether you get the photos you're looking for or not. That being said, if you're comfortable controlling your focus point manually, you know, using single point focus with the joystick to control what you're focusing on, this is virtually a non-issue because the X-T3 does have good continuous autofocus tracking. You just have to manually control where it's tracking, which frankly a lot of professionals prefer anyway, and wouldn't really view that as a downside. A lot of people don't need or want the face eye detect to be super reliable. And so if you're one of those people, this is a great camera for you to save some money. The X-T3 is definitely not the best choice for everyone, but it is the best choice if you're looking for a professional quality camera body that produces consistently high quality results at a great price. If you're a professional photographer who values you know, keeping your overhead costs down so you can keep your profits up, this camera makes a ton of sense for that use case scenario. Because in competent hands, it will give excellent results that are on par with the latest Fuji bodies in most ways. As long as you can live without IBIS and you're okay swapping batteries a little more often than the newer cameras, this camera will absolutely get most jobs done while keeping some cash in your pocket. At the time of filming this, a good condition copy of the X-T3 from places like KEH or MPB, and no, I'm not sponsored, just happen to have shopped there and have had good experiences. If you're buying a good quality X-T3 from those places, you can find these for just under $700 these days. And I happen to be in a few of the Fujifilm buy and sell groups on Facebook, where I've seen some of these transacting at a little below $600 recently, which frankly is a steal. That makes me want to pick up a few more of them just to have, because I like this camera so much. And that's as someone who now, my primary body is an XH2. That's what I'm filming this on right now. And so this is kind of my B camera these days, but I still really, really like it. And I'm very familiar with it. And so it's a great tool that I can make great photos and videos with. If the battery size and lack of IBIS are deal breakers for you, you may want to take a look at the Fuji X-T4 because it retains all of the pros associated with the X-T3. But it adds the NPW235 battery, so you'll have longer battery life. It also has IBIS and a fully articulated screen. So if you shoot video, the X-T4 may actually be the better value for you. That being said, that does come at an additional cost, as the X-T4 is still selling for $1,000 or more used in most cases these days, right? Nothing comes free, so if you don't need those features, the X-T3 is where it's at. If you do, you have the X-T4. Where obviously you can go with a brand new camera, X-T5, XH2, if you're willing to spend the money, but then you probably wouldn't be watching this video, right? If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate you being here to help this channel grow. I'm working on, growing this channel slowly and getting it to take off. This is not my full-time job. I just happen to really have a passion for photography and I want to share it with the world. I plan to release weekly videos related to photography and the adventures it takes me on. So if you're into that kind of thing, then please like, comment, subscribe, interact with the channel, let me know what you thought, how I can improve, and I really appreciate any feedback you guys give me. If you spend time taking photos in cold places, you should check out this video here about my favorite battery-powered hand warmers for going out on cold days. Other than that, thank you and have a fantastic day.